Hello, welcome to our show host series, our last video in our old studio before we move to our new space. I want to talk today about something I've been talking to people about this week, so it's top of mind. New clients, potential clients. The first thing that we get into often on like a discovery call when someone says, hey, I'm really interested in a podcast, or I have a podcast and we're trying to figure out what's next, like what the next chapter is, which is what I've been doing this week with a few folks. We talk about their long-term goals, like for their personal brand, for their business brand, for their project, their hobby, their initiative, their mission. You may not be doing it for business, but this relates, right? Like whatever your big goal is, like maybe it is just a hobby, maybe it is for fun, but there's something important before you get into the nitty-gritty of like how to make a podcast, whether it should be video or audio and how many episodes and how you're going to title it and who you're going to have on. Before all of that, we back it up and we have a really thoughtful conversation about where someone wants to be in like 3 years. Sometimes it's harder to forecast than that. The life is unpredictable and you can make great plans and they can all change because the world is a fast moving place. But 3 years, I think 2 to 3 years is a good place to put your mind when you're thinking about whether or not you want to podcast, keep podcasting, do a YouTube show. And this is what I ask people. So hopefully this can guide you through this process like we were on a call together. I ask them to tell me where they want to be in 3 years, whether that's personally, professionally, kind of what progress maybe they've made or what signifiers of success will have happened at that point. And so that can look like a lot of different things. Sometimes people will tell me about revenue goals in their business or amount of customers that they've worked with or helped. Maybe it is kind of the impact, like the reach of their message. Maybe they want this large of an audience because that is meaningful to them. Like I want to impact this many people in the way that, I'm working on impacting people. It can also look like, hey, I actually want to exit my business, or I want to, build my team to a certain point and then be in a different role in 3 years. Maybe they've been building for a long time and they're looking to kind of move into thought leadership, mentorship. Maybe they are, ready to make a move in their career. It could be something totally unwork related, right? It could be like, I really love public speaking and I want to become a public speaker. I want to write a book. That's so common. People tell me, I want to write a book. I want to become a published author. I want to do speaking. Maybe they want to become a coach or host retreats. These are all things that are common to the people I get to talk to. But it could be something even different. Sometimes it's, I really want to build relationships with people in my industry or my space or my community, right? Your show topic could just be something that's like a community project. It doesn't have to be physical, geographic community. It could also be like the community of people who've experienced the thing I've experienced. Maybe that's a health journey or a spiritual journey or, all kinds of interesting things, right? Maybe you're doing a hobby or a passion project and it involves like an arts thing. And it's like, I want to build relationships with the people in the art community that I really vibe with. And I know a podcast will allow me to have an excuse to sit down and have really amazing conversations with the people I admire in this space doing this work. Like sometimes that's where people want to be in 3 years. So it can take a lot of different forms. And I'm being a little general in this video because I'm trying to speak to everyone who's watching, but hopefully you can just start to think in your mind, like, what would I tell Christine if we were on a call, getting to know each other and talking about a podcast? Like, what would I say my goal is in 3 years for maybe yourself, your business, your brand, your organization, your project, your mission? And the reason why it's so important to think really big, think long term before you start figuring out what kind of show to make is because you've heard me say this many times. Podcasts and YouTube shows are long games. They take years to kind of really find their footing and get really good and rich and find their audience and make amazing content that we all love. For most shows, it's a years-long process, and it's a new skill for a show host to obviously pick up. So part of that process is you learning how to be a great show host, and there's no way to become a great show host without being a show host. Like you literally have to learn as you go. You can get great coaching from producers and media strategists and other podcasters, but you can't just like read the book and then be a great show host. So The reason why I want to understand someone's big picture, long-term view before they start a show is because sometimes people will say, this is where I want to get to. And then they'll say, but I want to do a show now. I'm like, well, why do you want to do a show? And the reasons they give me might not in any way align with the long-term goal. Maybe they've just seen a bunch of people hosting podcasts and seen clips on Instagram and they're like, oh, that looks so fun. Or I love the status symbol of that. Or I think that has a lot of, kind of success identity attached to it. Like people will take me seriously if I have a podcast, or people will think I'm an expert if I have a podcast. So it's not like a good nor bad answer. It's just an important process to walk yourself through and be like, is where I want to be in 3 years actually attached to being a show host? Or is being a show host something that I want now, like status, opportunity, maybe preconceived notions about what it could create for you? And in 3 years, I'll be on to something totally different. There are certain media projects you can do that will get you attention now and be irrelevant in 3 years. And sometimes I help people figure that out. And I'm like, hey, I don't think you should do a podcast. You should actually look at this other opportunity that's like present right now that you could do. But if they tell me about their long-term goals and then they tell me about why they want to do a podcast and I can see the alignment, I'm like, oh yeah, that totally adds up. It will take a few years and this will make a lot of sense. And now that I know your goals, like, I think we should make this type of show. Like, that's a really cool scenario, obviously. And I just wanted to share that with you today because if you've never had a strategic call with a show producer, whether that's YouTube or podcasting, it's maybe not like obvious to go through that process, but there's something pretty unique about podcasts and now YouTube shows, kind of that crossover between podcast chat shows and YouTube, that is different than creating an Instagram account or trying to go viral on TikTok or, pouring a bunch of time and money into, funny videos on YouTube. If you want to become a show host and create a really quality, powerful, awesome, beautiful, fun podcast that people love for years and builds all this brand equity and impact and creates an amazing community and revenue opportunities and all the reasons people love to podcast, I want you to think about your goals 3 years from now and what you have, to put into it now and whether that delayed gratification is worth it, because there will be some stuff that happens immediately as a podcast host that's very cool, but there's a lot of stuff that'll happen later. So that's my pro tip today. Absolutely drop questions in the comments if you have them. Subscribe to the channel because we're going to be bringing you more, and next time you will see me in our new space over at Kiln co-working space in Salt Lake City. So we'll see you soon.